उमज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Continuing with the descriptions given by Lord Kapila of the entanglement in fruitive activities. So we have come to this material world, we living entities, and we have become entangled. In the previous classes we heard about the example given of an inverted banyan tree, this material world. We have become so entangled. Nanto nachadir nacha sampratistha. We don't know the beginning, we don't know the end, we don't know what is the foundation of this, but somehow or the other we have become entangled here. So that description we are seeing, and specifically of those who are averse to the Supreme Lord. What do they do? We find in this verse. Rajasa kunta manasaha. Rajasa, being influenced then by the mode of passion, rajoguna. If a person is influenced by the mode of passion, what is the result of that? Kuntha manasaha. Kuntha means full of anxieties. The opposite of this we say Vaikuntaha, Vigataha Kuntaha, where the place where there are no anxieties, that is Vaikuntha. But this material world, it is Kuntha, full of anxieties. Kuntha manasaha, their minds are full of anxieties. Then kamatmanaha, always aspiring for sense gratification. More. They are greedy after getting objects of sense gratification. And then ajitendriyaha, uncontrolled senses. Pitrin yajanti anudinam. So on a regular basis they engage in the worship of their forefathers. Just few days ago we had this few days in the year, Mahalaya Amavasya, and previous 15 days to that, wherein lot of, especially in the mobile phones here and there, we used to see lot of advertisements. There are many places people go, perform various kinds of rituals specifically to worship the forefathers, and the description how people are induced to perform those offerings and all. Oh, it will give you a lot of pious credit. You can become relieved of all past sinful activities. Whatever your desires are there, everything will be fulfilled. And all people, they are interested in performing those activities. Rather than expressing our gratitude, being thankful, these things are completely lost. They want something, kamatmanaha. They want more and more objects for their sense gratification. So they perform whatever required for that, which will enable them to get more and more objects of sense gratification. So one among them is worshipping the forefathers. Pitrin yajanti anudinam griheshu abhirata ashayah. Always their minds are engaged in household life. Griheshu abhirata ashayah. Myself, my family, my home. In the translation, Srila Prabhupada continues to write, they worship the forefathers and are busy day and night improving the economic condition of their family, social or national life. See? First, I want to improve the economic condition of my family. Then, I look at improving the economic condition of my society, and then the development of economic condition of my nation, of my country. So these are all nothing but extensions of the self. We call it self-centeredness. I am the center, I should be happy, my family should be happy, my society should be happy, my nation should be happy. Nowhere my sense gratification should be hampered. So, this is nothing but extended sense gratification. Here, completely forgetful of the Supreme Lord, His purposes, His objective, His pleasure. No. Somehow we have come here, these things are mine, these people belong to me, this property belongs to me, let me enjoy. I am the center of all kinds of enjoyment. So this is material life. So this leads to a person's mental condition to be full of anxieties. In the conversation of today, what we read, Srila Prabhupada says, a person gets into an aeroplane, and we have heard of many air crashes happening, and while sitting there, that fear is there, anxiety is there. What if the plane in which I am sitting, what if there is a crash? Full of anxiety. Why that anxiety came? Because you went and sat inside that plane. If you had not chosen, if you had not decided to go and sit in that aeroplane, will that anxiety be there? No, that anxiety may not be there. Some other anxiety would have been there, but the anxiety of an air crash would have not been there. Just because you chose to go and sit inside the plane, that anxiety you have to face. Likewise, we have come to this material world. We have chosen to come here. It's a place of anxiety, so we have to face. In the next verse, we see Prabhupada explaining about Traivargikaste Purusha Vimukha Harimedasaha. Traivargika. So all these people who are interested in sense gratification, they are also termed as Traivargika. Why? Because the four Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha, those people who are too much after sense gratification, they will delete the last one, Moksha. They are not interested in that. That's why they are known as Traivargika. Primary thing is their Kama, sense gratification. And they have understood that if we perform some Dharma, it will enable us for my economic development, Artha. If I follow Dharma, if I worship some Devatas, follow some rules and regulations, then it will help me in developing my economic condition. So let me follow that Dharma. And why that economic development is required? For my Kama or sense gratification. So ultimately, they are after their sense gratification. So they are Traivargika. They are no longer interested in moksha, emancipation, about the Supreme Lord, nothing. In fact, Prabhupada says in the purport, such materialistic persons are never attracted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rather, they are antagonistic towards Him. Antagonistic means explicitly expressing anger, whatever, against the Supreme Lord. Just like Hiranyakashipu was there. He couldn't bear anyone worshipping the Supreme Lord. Who is God? Where is God? There is no God. I am God. See, if they hear God's name, they become very angry. They can't tolerate it. Where is God? Is He there in this pillar? I'll break that pillar. I'll kill Him. See, this is the mood of such atheistic people. Antagonistic they become. And such people are like Vimukha Harimedasaha, averse Supreme Lord. They cannot tolerate the existence of a supreme being. Vimukha, they turn away from the Supreme Lord. Prahalada also says in the Bhagavatam we find Matir na Krishne paratasvatova mitho vipatyeta grihavratanam adanta gopir vishatam tamishram punah charvita charvananam. Same thing, Matir na Krishne. Their mind cannot stay on Krishna. Why? Because they are so much after sense gratification. Adanta gopi. Same meaning. Adanta gopi means uncontrolled senses. Punah charvita charvananam. Again and again they go for more and more objects of senses which will never give them real happiness, and they become so entangled in this that they become completely averse towards the Supreme Lord. Vimukha Harimedasaha. They become Vimukha, averse to the Supreme Lord. And who is that Supreme Lord? Kathayam Kathaniyoru Vikramasya Madhutvishaha. The Lord who is the performer of wonderful feats. He lifts one big Govardhan hill to protect the residents of Vrindavan. And just by His presence, the lake in the Yamuna, which was poisoned by Kaliya, He was able to completely get rid of that poisonous effects. And He killed so many varieties of demons. The way He benedicted Sudama, the way He protected the residents of, like initially He was in Mathura, He built one huge city inside the ocean, in between the waters, to give protection to the citizens of Mathura. So like this, Kathayam Kathaniyoru Vikramasya Madhutvishaha. Wonderful varieties of pastimes the Lord performs. But people who are too much after sense gratification, they are not interested in Him. But what are they interested in? Prabhupada writes, they are interested in activities of some great politicians, some great cinema stars, or sports persons, or some rich man, but they are not interested in the activities of the Supreme Lord. So that's why their life will be full of anxieties. So here, in another part of the Bhagavatam, there is wonderful description given. The description given by Jadabharata to King Raghugana, wherein this material world is compared to a great forest. This great forest of material enjoyment. A living entity, part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, wanting to enjoy independent of the Supreme Lord, comes to this forest of material world. So here, it's a very descriptive chapter. Some 8 prominent points of comparison let us see in today's session. So here we find the living entity compared to a mercantile man. This mercantile man, this who is interested or involved in some business, making profit. So what does he do? The mercantile man goes little into the forest, picks up some wood, some minerals, some valuable stones, comes back to the village and sells it in the market for a good price and makes money out of it. So that's his business. So he continues to do that, because if he goes to the forest, there for picking up some wood, for picking up some minerals or valuable stones, nobody charges for that. It's all available freely there. Anything you go there, pick it up and come and sell it and make money out of it. So he does that. And he becomes so engrossed, he becomes greedy, he wants more money. So what does he do? He goes into the depths of the forest so that more valuable stones are there, more valuable wood he may get there. So he gets into the depths of the forest and he goes into such deep forest within that he forgets the route to come back. He becomes lost inside the deep forest. So that's exactly how the entanglement happens in this material world. Where we came from, what's the purpose, how to go out of it. So much troublesome situations are there here. How to get rid of this? We become completely forgetful. So this is one comparison given of a mercantile man. Then about the family members, wife, children, what are they compared to? There it is given how family members in this material world go under the names of wife and children, but actually they behave like tigers and jackals. A herdsman tries to protect his sheep to the best of his ability, but the tigers and foxes take them away by force. Similarly, although a miserly man wants to guard his money very carefully, his family members take away all his assets forcibly, even though he is very vigilant. So speaking about wife and children, here it is said they are compared to tigers, foxes, jackals, and the person is compared to a herdsman. Imagine a herdsman means he has a lot of sheep, goats he has, and he has taken them for grazing, and is very vigilant to give them protection so that even one sheep, whatever, it should not go away from the herd. He should not lose it, or some forest animals come and take it away. So he is very vigilant to give them protection. So likewise, a materialistic man, he is very vigilant to protect his hard-earned money, his property, everything is very vigilant. Still, somehow, some foxes, jackals, they come and take away one or two sheep and they go away. And if at all some tiger comes in front of him only, everyone will be threatened. It will come, bounce on one animal and take one sheep or goat away. So likewise, how much ever vigilant a materialistic man may be in his family life, his wife, children and so-called relatives, they take away his hard-earned money, his property, everything will be taken away. This is the second one. Third, it speaks about envious men. How much ever a human being is what we say, humble, he is straightforward, all good qualities, noble qualities he may have, still there will be envious people who will trouble him. So in the Bhagavatam it is said, sometimes the conditioned soul in household life, being attached to material wealth and possessions, is disturbed by envious men who are like gadflies and mosquitoes, and sometimes he is troubled by thieves who are like locusts, birds of prey and rats. So there are envious people, just like in the forest there are some prey birds who come and vultures or whatever, take things away. There are many rats which comes and gnaws at anything you keep. There are many thieves who come and plunder away our riches. So that's how this world is full of such things. Locusts, birds of prey, rats, mosquitoes, gadflies, they continuously give pain to a person. So likewise, a householder, a materialistic man, there will be envious people who will be constantly giving him trouble in varieties of ways. But still, amidst all of these things, still he thinks somehow this is permanent world, somehow let me make some adjustment and live happily here, which will never happen. Then, the comparison of a mirage in the desert. Sometimes in this house in the sky, Gandharvapura, the conditioned soul drinks, eats and has sex. Being overly attached, he chases after the objects of senses, just as a deer chases a mirage in the desert. Sometimes a materialistic man, especially in the household life, he may feel, I'm happy now. I'm getting some good food to eat, some nice place to take rest, and sex life and all of these things, yes, I'm happy here. So this is compared to a Gandharvapura, meaning somewhere a house in the sky. It is just a phantasmagoria. It actually doesn't exist. But in our imagination, we think, oh, some safe place, some comfortable place, some happy place. We may feel like that. Any moment, everything will be collapsed. So, this person, just like a deer going behind a mirage in the desert. A mirage means it appears as if some water is there. The thirsty deer runs and goes for it. And after going there, it finds there is no water. Again it looks around. Again in the horizon, somewhere far away, it appears as if some water is there. That mirage in the desert. Again it runs behind it. Finally to find out, actually there is no water there also. It runs and runs and runs and finally gives up its life due to thirst without getting water at all. Likewise, a materialistic man continuously runs after the objects of senses, thinking that those things will give me happiness, but never those objects of sense gratification will make him happy. Next, it is spoken about gold. See, a materialistic man will be very much interested in making more money, accumulating gold. Very interestingly, the Bhagavatam says, sometimes the living entity is interested in the yellow stool known as gold and runs after it. That gold is the source of material opulence and envy, and it can enable one to afford illicit sex, gambling, meat eating, and intoxication. It's another thing we need to note, that gold is compared to yellow stool, and the purport Srila Prabhupada writes there is some diseased condition wherein a person, he passes his stool, which is yellow in color, the gold for a materialistic person, it looks very attractive and he goes behind it. Why? Because that gold or that wealth promises him these four things: intoxication, meat eating, gambling, and illicit sex. He can get all of these things through money. So he is so much interested in accumulating more and more gold, more and more wealth, thinking that all of it promises him his objects of sense gratification, which again is nothing but illusion. Next, the Bhagavatam speaks about the government servants. It is said there, sometimes the conditioned soul is very aggrieved by the chastisement of his enemies and government servants who use harsh words against him directly or indirectly. Such chastisement can be compared to the sounds of owls and crickets. Just like in the forest, there are many owls, crickets making some very intolerable sound. Continuously they'll be making some sound which becomes intolerable. We can't sleep there. So likewise, there are many government servants. For any job you want to get it done through them, you go there, we have to bear their harsh speech, intolerable speech, and also they are compared to government men act like carnivorous demons like Rakshasas, man-eaters, and likewise all of these things. And sometimes these government men turn against the conditioned soul and take away all his accumulated wealth. In the name of varieties of taxes, he will be overburdened, and sometimes it may so happen that all his wealth can be taken away by these government men. Just like Rakshasas, they come and devour a person. So such risk is there in that place. Next, what about his pious activities? Due to his pious activities in previous life, the conditioned soul attains material facilities in this life. But when they are finished, he approaches the living dead who possess these things. Such people are compared to impure trees, creepers, and poisonous wells. See, if a person, he has committed some pious activity in his previous life, he will be gifted with good birth, money, intelligence, education, health, everything he will be given. What if all of his pious credit is finished? He is bereft of all of his wealth, intelligence, health, everything is gone away. He doesn't possess these things anymore. What does he do? he approaches a person who has these things for help. He is in need of money, he goes to a rich man. He wants some protection, he'll take shelter of a strong man. Okay? He wants some ideas or some intelligence, he approaches another intelligent person. But those people whom he approaches, they are compared to impure trees or creepers or poisonous wells. What happens? You are feeling thirsty, you want water, oh, you'll be very happy, I found out a well. But in that well, the water is contaminated. What's the use? If you drink that water, your diseased condition will increase. Just like we heard from the story of Sanatana Goswami in the Jarikhanda forest, somewhere he took a bath in some contaminated water in the forest and he got some skin disease, itching sores. So likewise, we thinking that I don't possess these things, let me go and approach people for help. And those people, they'll contaminate us more. They will give us more trouble. We'll never be able to get any tangible help from such people. Such so-called rich people, so-called strong or intelligent people never will be able to get real help. Next, what about the so-called saintly people, swamis and yogis? Bhagavatam says, sometimes to mitigate distresses of heat and fire in the forest of the material world, the conditioned soul receives cheap blessings from atheists. Because in the outside world we see there are many so-called saintly people wearing saffron dress with long beard and matted hairs, but they may be whatever so-called religious people, but in reality they may be atheists also. They don't believe in the existence of God. They are not surrendered to the Supreme Lord. They may be atheists. He then loses all his intelligence in their association. Especially those people who say, who is God, where is God, I am God, you are God, everyone is God, or there is no God. Some different theories they teach. No basis of the Vedic literatures or authorized sampradaya, acharyas, nothing. Whatever comes to their mind, mental speculation, they go on professing. And people, they go and take shelter of such so-called swamis or yogis. And he loses all his intelligence in their association. This is exactly like jumping in a shallow river. A shallow river means what? Wherein water is there, but it is shallow. There is no depth there. Just maybe 1 or 2, 3 feet of water is there. And one person, oh, water is there, forest fire is there, let me go and dive there. So from top he goes and dives and what will happen? As a result, one simply breaks his head. He is not able to mitigate his sufferings from the heat, and in both ways he suffers. Outside there is extensive heat, unbearable heat. To mitigate that, he thinks, let me take shelter of this water here. He dives into the water only to break his head in that water. Likewise, if we don't take shelter of the devotees of the Lord, rather we go take shelter of so-called swamis and yogis who are not interested in devotional service towards the Supreme Lord, who are not in line with the Vedic literatures, then the result is diving into a shallow river. Then maybe one more point I'll cover and we'll end with this. Important one. It speaks about sleep. This for devotees is very important. Sleep is exactly like a python. Python. Snake, big python. Those who wander in the forest of material life are always devoured by the python of sleep. We are sleeping means we are being devoured by that python. Being bitten by this python, they always remain in the darkness of ignorance. They are like dead bodies thrown in a distant forest. Thus, the conditioned souls cannot understand what is going on in life. See, there are many things going on in life. Every day comes, every night comes, we are one day closer to death. Death in the form of whatever varieties of ways, it is just standing in front of us. We are simply few days ahead of disease, old age. All of these conditions are forced upon us. And adhyatmika, adidaivika, adibhautika kleshas at regular intervals, they torment us. Completely forgetful of all of these things, we take shelter of what? Python of sleep. Nicely let me sleep. So much time is going waste there. Actually, a devotee, the intention before he goes to sleep should be, this body, it requires some rest. As minimum as is required, let me give it to it. Because it's a conditioned life I am leading here. So this material body, it is conditioned. It wants some food, wants some sleep. So as much as required, let me give it to it. So that after I wake up tomorrow morning, I'll be fresh, with more energy, with more enthusiasm to serve the Lord. So this is the mood a devotee should be. Not that, oh, sufficiently I've done and let me take rest to the fullest extent for my complete satisfaction. And this activity will give me happiness, real happiness. No, that means we are being bitten by that serpent, and in that poisonous condition, we are just lying down like a dead body thrown in the forest. So this is the example given. A dead body thrown in the forest. So likewise, we will be sleeping inside the bed, on the bed somewhere. So, as devotees, we don't take shelter of sleep to come out of or to get rid of the uncomfortable situations of this material world. No, rather a devotee feels that this sleep is a disturbance to me. So as much as required in this conditioned life, let me sleep, and I am supposed to take shelter of the Supreme Lord by chanting His holy names, by being fully engaged in the Lord's service throughout the day. So this should be the mode of a devotee. So we'll conclude with this. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.